And I want to talk about, there's some people out there who I think, they're I don't know how to say this because it's going to sound weird coming from somebody like me. But I think, but it's something that needs to be said. There are some people that are running around out there that all they think about is UFOs constantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every hour on the hour. There are some people out there who basically completely, absolutely, utterly obsessed with it, and there's no other interest in their lives whatsoever. And I don't think that's healthy. That's just, I try to maintain I have a lot of different interests. In addition to the UFOs, there's a lot of different things that I'm interested in. I enjoy classic literature. I love reading like Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes stories. I love things like that. I love old movies, classic movies. I love, I love 3D movies, old 3D movies. There's all stuff like that. I'm a big fan of sport. I'm a sports fan. I love football, NFL, especially the Philadelphia Eagles. There's different things that you got to have, right? You just can't be totally focused on UFOs all the time. It's not, you don't want to be around your friends and family all the time. Just that's all you talk about, right? There has to be something more than that. You got to have other interests beyond just UFOs. I mean, you need to take a break sometimes. I mean, there's some people they're just completely obsessive with this, and I understand that. I get obsessed with certain things sometimes too. But I'll break away from. I'll realize, okay, it's time to give this a little break for a couple of days, and I'll come back to it. But it's just something, because a UFO topic particularly, it's something that you could drive yourself crazy with. I mean, it's so, because you're not going to have any answers. There are no answers. You're never going to get to, it just seems like we're never going to get to the bottom. Never, even if there is disclosure, we're never going to get to the full, we're never going to have all the answers. It's just, I think to me, it's unhealthy to constantly focus on it, like 24 hours a day. I mean, I know it's funny coming from someone who's talking about UFOs, all the time, every week, multiple times a week in a podcast, right? All the different videos and different podcasts every week, right? Yeah. But I mean, in between those, right, there's other things going on. I have other interests, right? And I just hope that, I know there's some people out there that probably, 7 days a week. I mean, and even when they're meeting, we have Thanksgiving coming up here in the United States. It's always a great time to get together with family. And I mean, I try not to be that person that shows up and the first thing coming out of my mouth is like, UFOs, aliens are real, UFOs, aliens. You don't want to be that. You want to, that's just something you just don't want. I mean, you got to think about other things. I mean, that's all. It's the whole UFO thing. It just, to me, the way I look at it, right? It's just an aspect of this great experience. Life is fantastic. I think life, it has its ups and downs, of course. I mean, there's things that get us sad and there's things that make us happy. But it's a great experience, whatever it's all about. I don't know. It's like, every now and then I wonder, what the hell is this all about? Because it's just so strange, our whole existence. But it's wonderful at the same time. And it's fascinating and everything, but we do become obsessed with certain things, and this goes for anything. I mean, it's not just UFOs; it could be whatever. Certain things. I just think it's an unhealthy thing that if you're just constantly focused on one thing and that's it. I mean, who the hell's going to want to be around you? I mean, if all you're doing is talking about aliens and extraterrestrials, that's both the same thing. If you're talking about aliens and UFOs all day long, I mean. I usually don't do that. I mean, so a lot of times, I'll meet with my son, my 20-year-old son, and he's into philosophy. Now we'll sit there and have a big, long, hour-long philosophical conversation. I mean, there's just all different things going on here. It's not just UFOs. It is a big part of it. There's just about every day. I'll spend time thinking about this. Actually, last night I spent time thinking about this. I was thinking about. I want to talk about this because I want to talk. I want to put out there that, hey, you got to give it a break sometimes. Sometimes you got to say, okay, I need a couple of days of something else. And that's the way it should be with anything. I mean, just to me that you at the same time, UFOs is like. The topic of UFOs is just, to me, it's something that it's not being looked at enough it's not being accepted. It needs to be accepted by everyone. It's like I feel like I have to do this. I feel like it's necessary to do what I'm doing to try to help push that, along with all these other people who are like me that are doing the same thing. They're trying to make people aware that this is something we need to be talking about, in addition to all these other things we're talking about. Because there's so many different important things that are part of this life. UFOs and extraterrestrials it's just one of them. Although I do think it's the biggest story of all time, but it is just one thing within a multitude of other things that are going on in this wonderful existence of ours. And that's why I think that's why there are certain people like me and a lot of other people who are pushing this, because they think it's important too that we spend more time. We look at this a little bit more, so we have some more answers, so we can understand it a little bit more. But at the same time, none of us, I think most of us are probably, we don't completely focus on this 24 hours, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I just don't think we do that. I think a lot of us, try to separate it, and you have to. Now I know, but there are some people who do not, and maybe this is what I'm just trying to reach out to them to say, hey, you have to give it a break sometimes. There has to be other things that you worry yourself with, you concern or you think about, or try to enjoy. Or just a nice walk around somewhere, or visiting friends or family, or talking about other things, enjoying a movie or a sporting event, anything. It has to be more than just this, because you'll drive yourself crazy just focused on one topic. I mean, you see what happens when people are in a cult, for instance. I mean, it becomes, that's the next step, is what I'm saying. The next step for anything, right? It becomes, you drive yourself crazy, basically. I mean, you look at, sometimes, different people are susceptible to that, like people who could be that allow themselves to just go down a rabbit hole so far that next thing you know, they're in a cult, and that's not a good thing. Now, I don't think UFO is I mean, I don't think the people who are interested in UFO subject, for them, I would say 95% or more are not, right? But there are, just like anything else, there are some groups that I think could be considered a cult, because that's all they think about, and then there are some people out there to take advantage of those people by making them pay money for certain things and this and that, and that's sad. But again, that's with anything out there. Like, look at a lot of these evangelical preachers out there. All they're interested in is basically making millions and millions of dollars off susceptible, gullible people, and that's what it's about. So you got to watch that, and that's within every, politicians. There's a lot of politicians out there, basically asking for money who really don't need it. Okay. So you got to be careful, and you got to find other interests and not just focus on one thing, and you'll be happier. I mean, you don't want to be, because UFOs is it. If you thought about it all the time, you would drive yourself crazy, because there's a lot of scary things about it. You're going to be more stressed. It causes stress. The whole idea of it is very stressful. The idea that we have no control over it. I mean, that's just that's a fact. I mean, we don't have control over it. So if you're focused on this all the time, you're going to be worried about this all the time. We don't have control over it, and also in addition to that, I mean, other people that you're around, they're going to see this. Like they're going to when you're around, they're going to feel your stress. Right. And then you're also, on top of it, you're going to be talking about it a lot more than you probably should be around people who. A lot of people are interested in this, but sometimes if you're too interested in it and you're just constantly talking about it around other people, they're not going to want to. They're going to like it. They're not going to like that. I mean, it's just like, I know there are some people in a lot of people's lives who you try to avoid, because they won't shut up. Every time you run into them, they just keep talking, and you want to get away from them, but you can't. It's just hard to break away from them, and that's why you try to avoid them. And that's what you will become if you're one of these people that just wants to talk about UFOs constantly, aliens constantly, right? And to all your friends and family, they're not going to be, they're not going to want to talk about it. Like, I don't talk about this all the time with people in my family. They know what I believe, right? But they don't want to hear this 24 hours a day. So I rarely, I mean, I'll talk about sometimes, but not constantly. I would drive them crazy. So there has to be a limit. You have to consciously think about this. I mean, you just, they don't want to hear this. A lot of people, you got to, if you give it to them a little bit at a time, maybe, but you don't, every time you see somebody that, somebody in your family, hey, I saw a new UFO show last night. You should see it. Like, you don't want to be that way, right? Especially to someone who's not as interested in it as you are. So, anyway, it was just something that was rolling around in my head, and I just thought this was an important topic to just throw out there, because I know that there's people out there who, are constantly thinking about this. And it's just, to me, there has to be more to life than just constantly being concerned about UFOs or aliens. And that would go, again, with everything. I think that goes with everything. I mean, there's some people who all they think about is like, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. If I was just constantly talking about the Eagles 24/7, that would really be obnoxious, especially to other people, you know what I mean, who are fans of some other football team or who aren't interested in football at all, so you see where I'm going with this. But it's just something that this kind of thing is not talked about a lot, but I think it needs to be talked about. It just needs to be stated, and that's all I'm doing. I'm just trying to state something that's put it this way. There are some people out there, that I've encountered who I mean, that's all they talk about is UFOs, and like every light in the sky, oh, that's a UFO, and even though it's a plane, but everything's UFO, and that's all they talk about, and it's unnerving to see that. That's there's certain levels of this whole phenomenon where you get to a certain point, but you don't really want to go beyond that. I mean, we can only talk about with what we know and stay within that range. I mean, and we could speculate about the rest. And on top of that, we just don't want to talk about it constantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every minute of the day. Because there's other things going on here, and there's other interests that you should have in addition to this. I mean, life is such a grand thing, and so every now and then you should, if you do feel yourself falling down that rabbit hole, maybe you need to stop. Hey, look, I'm going to give myself 2 or 3 days off from this. I'm not going to be watching any videos or documentaries or listening to any podcasts or anything like that. I'm just going to give it a break. It's time to do something else for a little while, and then come back to it when you're ready. I mean, but you just got to give everything has to come in moderation. It's very important. And I think the same thing with UFOs too. The UFO topic, don't go too crazy with it, but at the same time, it's okay to be interested in it, but just don't go down a rabbit hole where that's all it is. It has to be more than just that, because it's just one little part of this great life, and it has to be more than just that. There's more things than just that. So, I mean, we'll get there. One of these days we will have disclosure, and there'll be a lot to talk about when that day comes. And that disclosure could happen either by the government finally just coming clean, or it could be a forced kind of thing where the aliens make it impossible to keep it a secret anymore. But one way or the other, it's going to come at some point in our future where we will get over that hump, and then there'll be a lot of other things to talk about. And even when that happens too, you still, there's other things in life. I mean, they're still going to work, having a job, or raising a family. There's all that. None of that's going to change. It's just the only thing that's going to change is the fact and the knowledge that you now possess that, oh yeah, extraterrestrials are real. It's a fact that the whole world accepts now. Oh wow, and then we move on from there. But so that's. That's the only difference that will be. I mean, things will still be the same in a way, except we'll now be moving forward with the knowledge. Everyone will have the knowledge that is a reality.